Hey everybody, it's Andrew from appspy.com and we have a really special video for you today. We've got a preview of Mission Europa by Ryan Mitchell. Now this 3D first-person shooter RPG has been in development for 1.5 years. Yes, 1.5 years. And if you're any sort of community and forum goer, you might have already heard about this game, simply just because of how insanely massive this game is going to be. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be massive in terms of popularity. We'll have to see how that works out when it comes out. But the really interesting thing is that this game is very much sort of aligned with the whole System Shock series of first-person shooter RPG, including also sort of the horror theme that goes on and little things like, oh, you know, you're being told where to go by a computer AI. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, yeah, this is absolutely massive, and to put it in perspective, this game is so large. This game has a scope and magnitude, you know, so far in its own league on the iOS device, let alone on the console or PC, that testers who have been playing for over 13 hours, just under 13 hours I should say, have only reached level 10. There are 50 levels in the game. It's 13 hours to reach level 10, and there are 50 levels available in the game. That's not even taking into account the multiplayer and the free exploration that you can do in going between all the levels and bonus sort of content that's available. Now let's go over a few of the aspects in the game. Let's start out with the interface. Now, the first thing that you may notice is that it is a bit cluttered and lacking in intuitive design. It is a little bit more functional than it is helpful, and that's not such a bad thing. It is definitely geared towards the hardcore gamer who is used to these sorts of menu systems, especially on the PC, definitely not on the iPhone, where things are definitely simplified and big and bold and colourful as per the whole Apple way of things. But one thing that does sort of worry me is that, like many RPGs, things like the item system and skill system, things like that, can make or break a game, simply because things like, you know, trying to equip items, how do I swap between item sets. The game actually allows you to place items on your skill bars. So say I want to switch between my sword and my shotgun, as you can see on screen, all I have to do is place the sword on the skill bar, equip my shotgun, and then I can tap my sword, bam, now I'm holding my sword. Pretty cool. Unfortunately, I'm not too sure how things like, say I want to switch between a different shield between these sets, you kind of have to do that manually. We'll see how that goes in the future. Also, little things like identifying the best fitting item can be a bit fiddly. There is an item comparison system in place, but again, you have to compare things individually and laboriously over time. The inventory itself can't be sorted automatically, so yeah, little things. I mean, I'm expecting, you know, a lot, obviously, for an independently developed game over a long time, especially something this huge, but, you know, it's the little things that can often make or break a game in the end. Other little things like the graphical design, obviously you can see that the game is a little bit rough shot, but in fairness, the engine itself is designed for support across a very broad set of devices. So, I mean, you get kind of a balance here. I mean, while the game itself is certainly not as pretty as, say, Infinity Blade, it will run on low-end devices. That's actually, it's a payoff that I'm quite willing to go for, especially given how much variety is in the game. It's absolutely insane. Within, I think, just the first level alone, I can probably count off the top of my head at least half a dozen, if not more, different creatures that I had to fight. Not including a boss creature, and a little bit of exploration outside of that has resulted in me finding some really, really, really crazy, weird creatures. So, I mean, the scope is bordering on insane. There's about 300 cutscenes, over 170 quests, so it's absolutely insane. There are options to strip back the visuals a bit, so if you don't like having text everywhere on your screen and having numbers, showing you how much damage you've done, you can pull those off the screen. Though I do think the horrific theme is rendered a little bit too comical when things like headshot or rage are emblazoned across the screen in bold text. It's a minor thing, but again, I'll stress the whole minor issues can snowball into something a little bit larger. As you're watching, you may also notice that the game is very similar to things like Korean RPGs, with skill sets across the outside, though this is, of course, a first-person shooter. I did say before that this is much sort of more related to the System Shock series. I'll get there eventually. And that's actually quite apt, because, there's a lot to explore. There is a sort of a flesh-based thing going on there with dismantling the Reaper threat. Anyway, skills are awarded over time, so it's not like a traditional sort of Korean RPG in the sense that you'll be picking up and, putting points into skills. You'll be given skills and can earn them over time. But what's really interesting, there are skill sets, so I can switch between different sets of skills. And those skills can synergize differently, which means that I can only assume in later levels I'd be able to create sets that are specialized for different purposes. So say I was dealing with lots of weaker creatures, I could switch my skill set to activate abilities that are specialized for doing area damage, so I'd be able to take out the weak enemies much quicker. Or if I decided to come up against a boss, I switch to a tanky sort of spec that can give me a lot of healing, and I can do this on the fly, which means that you have a lot of longevity and playability within just one single level itself. A crafting system is also available within the game, but I did not have time to explore its intricacies because you require a lot of raw materials to sort of get going there, and I don't think I've quite earned enough raw materials to even get the basics going. Anyway, now overall, I can't stress how comprehensive this game is. Multiple cutscenes, lots of recorded audio. I think within the first hour that I've played, I've encountered a different variety of audio and voice work that are included, in big productions. Like, there's just so much going on there. Huge amounts of quests, lots of in-game text, huge variety of creatures. In 1.5 years, Ryan has obviously created a motherload of content which is destined to overwhelm hardcore gamers after something that's more than skin and bones, which is definitely something that we're used to on the App Store. Whether or not this has its place within the sort of the mobile gaming arena, that's a different thing altogether. And whether or not this game is going to be too unfriendly to new gamers, we'll see how that affects the game. But if you're after something really comprehensive, I can't imagine any game giving you more value for money than something like Mission Europa. Now, Mission Europa has been submitted for approval already. That's been about a week since that has gone out. It's unsure when that will actually be finally approved. Obviously, there is a lot of content to go through, and that also means that that's going to affect our review as well. So once it's out, even though I have a preview copy, I'm really not sure when I'm going to be able to conclusively sit down and have a well-reasoned opinion on the game. We'll see how that flies later on. I may discuss with the developer a few issues, but anyway, we'll go on from there. But if you're after something big, definitely keep an eye on Mission Europa. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed what you saw, and we will see you next time. This has been Andrew with AppSpy.com. We review, you decide.